This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am here with Jay Drysdale, who is responsible for an absolutely shocking number of sparkling wines coming from British Columbia. What's going on, Jay?
Oh, I can't stop. It's just
I couldn't believe the
um
number of wines you make.
and yeah, and we did our 10-year this year, and when we started, we did a white and a rosé, one Chard and one Gamay bubbles, and now on average, I think I'm anywhere between 15 and 20 different sparkling wines split between traditional ancestral method and yeah, for me it's I don't know, I think it's more of my cooking background
Yep.
uh, kind of prepared me a bit in the sense that I can't make a great dish if I don't know how my ingredients are going to work. And then I took that philosophy to wine and said, well, how can I craft an amazing bubbles if I don't know how all the components work? So every vineyard we work with, every clone we work with, I try and keep separate, just so I understand what it brings to the glass, and then how I could potentially, you know, make something, that is the sum of its parts and a better wine for it. And in the meantime, I've just fallen in love with all the different personalities I discover from the different vineyards, and I think it gives me clarity into farming, which I can see in the ferments when if I've got a healthy fruit or therefore a healthy vineyard. And it's just I've really become attracted to all the different personalities that each vineyard site can bring to the glass. So yeah, it's just, I mean, it drives Wendy, my wife, a bit nuts because she does the labels and I do the juice. But yeah, I just, even some small stuff I get from some little backyard vineyards here in the village where, I might make 15 or 25 cases or something. But I don't know, I really enjoy seeing, all the differences amongst this. And I think it's maybe even accelerated my learning curve on just these grapes. So
Speaking of ingredients, the two ingredients that you tend to use the most, but not exclusively, are Chardonnay and Gamay Noir. Now,
yeah.
Chardonnay, I understand because it is one of the most classic grapes of one of the more famous sparkling wine regions in the world, as well as a few others. Gamay Noir, I'd be interested why you chose to eschew the classic Pinot Noir or Pinot Meunier and go for Gamay Noir.
Back in the day, Gamay was you couldn't even give Gamay away. I mean, most wineries were using it for filler, and no
Yeah.
one was really taking it seriously. And for me, it was a bit of my underdog. I wasn't quite sure, whether it would pan out. And it's just completely kind of won my heart. It's a grape for me that just wears its personality on its sleeve, and it can be so varied just by literally hours of skin contact can take you into different dimensions of flavors and textures, and that is truly won me over. And I've always kind of joked and said, Gamay is sort of the hardy rough and tumble grape, and Pinot was always that high maintenance fussy sort of grape. And at the day, I mean, when I was learning to make wine, Pinot's a pretty intimidating grape as well. And I didn't want to jump into the Pinot game until I kind of at least learned how to dance first with some other grapes. And that being said, 10 years in, I may actually dabble with some Pinot this year. So
Oh,
because grapes
interesting. Okay.
themselves are just
Yeah.
getting so hard to get that I've lost 3 Gamay vineyards in the last year, and to no one's fault or anything. It's just a very healthy competitive industry, but it's just getting tough to get grapes, period, to
So it's
to
kind of
maintain
like
our
is it kind
3,000
of like
cases.
oxtail, where before you could buy it for absolutely nothing, and now people are actually after Gamay to make premium Gamay, right?
Yeah.
Oxtail's bloody expensive now. I couldn't believe it the other day. I was in the store. Anyway, I digress.
No,
But
I fully hear you. Yeah, it's
let,
like we figure out an amazing, dish or wine with an unknown grape, and then everyone wants to play with it. So it's good that we're able to take, lesser knowns and definitely use them up. But yeah, it's getting tough. So
Now, if we were to look at the most famous sparkling wine region of the world that begins with C, all of that, for the most part, the greater part of that production is all about assemblage. However, for the most part, you have chosen to go down the route of the single site wines. Why did you choose that route?
I think the biggest one being our region is just so, 180 different than Champagne, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of the assemblages is because they're trying to make something great from something good.
Yeah, yeah.
And they don't get the best vintages all the time, and it's incredible what they can produce given the vintages they do get in a typical decade. We're here, in the Americas, you know it's a rarity that we have a bad vintage. So, and because we have no problem ripening, it's all a matter of then timing. So as I dove into it, my intention was to blend and craft and really go down that route. But the more I got into it, the more I just kind of realized that I didn't have to blend, and I've only done a few in my time, and I do think there's a future for it. But I'm still 10 years in and still think I'm still learning what our grapes can and want to do. And and an example of that is last year I had a very irregular Gamay vineyard with varying degrees of healthy vineyards, meaning I had small ones and big ones, and it was all over the board. And I played it out. I amortized the entire vineyard as a whole and picked it all as a whole. And that dimension of both ripe and underripe and high acid, low acid, as everything balanced out, it gave me layers of textures that I think blending would have done the same way. So in a way, I guess I'm almost looking at blending in the vineyard or using the vineyard to mimic the results I want. And another example of that is this year with this heat, like telling growers to hang a bit extra fruit to kind of push my pick times back so that I get longer hang time, but as long as it can hold my acidity, I'll see new flavors develop, kind of like last year, because we were still picking bubble grapes in October, which was absolutely unheard of for out here. So I think just being able to kind of learn that shuffle with Mother Nature and figure out, how to always create something unique, I've found my need to blend has just been not as necessary as I once thought it was. So yeah.
You were speaking about the heat there, and of course, the heat has led to some dreadful wildfires all across the country, actually. How has this impacted you and the vineyards that you source fruit from?
They love it. I mean, we're in kind of day 2 of some pretty heavy smoke. And if this continues for another week or 2, then I could see a bit of taint developing.
Yeah. Is that
But
would be about how long it would take for that to impact?
I'm kind of guesstimating, but on most of the research I've read, it takes usually a solid week or 2 of heavy smoke smell to permeate the skins to influence a wine. I've only worked with smoke taint wines once from 2018, when Caramias, which is in the Similkameen Valley, about 45 minutes south of here, they had local fires that kept the smoke hanging low in the valley that year. And I was super lucky. Maybe it was bubbles because I picked early, but I picked up smoke taint in the wine, but it actually ended up complementing. So it was like I had a Chardonnay that was like eating apple pie sitting next to a fire. And my Gamay
Are you sure that's not marketing speak there?
I know, I swear, I wish I could make this up. And my Gamay was like, it had this peated whiskey finish, and those 2 wines ended up being the first 2 I sold out that year.
Oh, bloody hell.
So it was just people like that uniqueness, but I have had some fairly tainted stuff that were not enjoyable to drink from other wineries in the region and that, but I think I just lucked out. But
with the thinner skins, it would probably impact the Pinots more than the Gamays, right? So
exactly, another vote for Gamay over Pinot there. So
you have at some points described yourself as a more natural winemaker, but natural winemaking means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I would be intrigued as to what you feel natural winemaking is.
Absolutely. For me, it all starts with soil. And if I have healthy soils, the side effect is healthy plants. And I have discovered over the years that whenever I have wines that end up with a bit of stink, funk, Brett, mouse, whatever, it's usually to do with some level of stress from a lack of nutrition in the fruit. So, for me, natural wine is really about farming. And if you have good fruit, you shouldn't really have to do much in the winery at the end of the day. My my theory or movement with natural is being as transparent as I can. That's how I've sort of saw the future of natural wine, in that the same way you can choose which farmers to get fruit and vegetables from, to how you source your proteins, wine should be an enjoyable substance that you should be able to know about. And why we don't have to put ingredients on a label still confounds me. So we started 3 years ago listing anything. And if I have to use an organic nutrient or something to help my wine along, then I can just stick it on the label. So for me, natural wine came down to being transparent, honest, and basically trying to farm in a manner that leaves our earth in a better condition than when we got it. And that's sort of how I've defined it. And I love that it's not defined. I know we're going to get everybody playing with peripherals and their own definitions, but to our customers and that, this is how we define it. And I want you to be able to trust in the label you see from us. And I still have to buy conventional fruit because we can't find enough organic and biodynamic, but I'd rather just be really transparent about it so that you as a consumer can make a choice. Is that something I want to drink? And go down that route. And that's how we've approached it more than anything, is transparency.
Now, speaking about the natural wine movement, pet nats are very kind of zeitgeisty within that movement. Were you making pet nats from day one? Because obviously a pet nat program, you can start off like that as opposed to your traditional method.
It wasn't, my first pet nat I made in 2013.
Right.
And one barrel worked, one barrel didn't. And back then I didn't have the the knowledge I have now on how to fix faults as they start to go awry. And our definition only is, if I like the way a vineyard is farmed, will I call it a pet nat? If it's not farmed in that way and I still decide to make a wine in that method, I simply just call it ancestral method. So for me, pet nat is my indication that I like the way they farm. They don't have to be certified or anything like that. Just because I think our certification processes are kind of set up to penalize those that are trying to really farm better and reward those who are still spraying toxic chemicals. So I think until we kind of readjust our certification processes, it's my definition and mine only, and that's as far as it has to reach in my eyes. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you for giving us such an insight into what you're doing over there in BC. We're very much looking forward to seeing your wines through Ranger Wine. Over here in Ontario, I look forward to tasting them, and hopefully we'll have a chance to catch up at some point in the future.
That'd be amazing. Thank you for your time today.
And thank you for your time. Bye for now.
Ciao.